This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a GE washer that is dripping. Water just keeps coming in even when the washer is not on, and we got this constant drip, and this is due to a faulty fill valve. The fill valve is not closing all the way. So this washing machine fills up overnight just by itself. Here's the model number for the washer. And this is a pretty easy thing to cure. You just have to put a new fill valve in. So we are going to get the machine out away from the wall a little bit, turn off the water. So those water valves at the wall, we're going to turn them all the way off. Then we're going to be removing the screws from the back panel. That's going to give us really easy access to the fill valve. We can take off the old one and pop in a new one. So these are 1/4-inch screws. We're just zipping them out. There's a series of them at the top, and then there's 2 at the bottom right, bottom left-hand corner. Once we get those screws off, we can take the front panel, the plastic panel, and we can kind of wiggle it toward us and it'll start to let go, and then you can then push the panel to your right a little bit and then it'll come loose. You can just lift it out of the way. It gives you good access to the fill valve. It's just sitting right here in front of us. Pulling these modular connectors off of the fill valve, they're the ones bringing power to it. The left one is for cold, the right one is for hot. And here is the new fill valve. Here's the part number. These are pretty cheap. Get them online. And now we're just going to take it out of its case. Going to use a pair of pliers to unloosen the hoses on the back. So I've already got the water turned off. Make sure you turn the valves pretty tight in the off position so that water won't dribble out while you're doing the repair. Then once you unloosen them, you can spin them off by hand. I like to kind of grab the hose and wiggle it back and forth as I'm unloosening it, and that just helps me to get it off a little bit faster. So this gold one goes to the cold side. Just help you remember. Say gold to cold might help you remember which one goes which, because you don't want to mix them up when you reinstall them. Get that out of the way. I'll loosen up this one. These slip joint pliers are pretty cool. They allow you to get like a kind of a wider grip to be able to grab things like these hoses. So spin that off. And then there's just a few screws we have to unloosen. I use my pliers also to pull this spring clamp off of this white hose. That's the one bringing water from the fill valve over to the washer. Take out 2 Phillips head screws that are holding in the fill valve. These probably last about maybe 6 or 7 years before they start to have trouble. Either they don't open or they don't close all the way. This one just wasn't closing all the way. So now I'm going to try to pull this white hose off, and I'm going to grab the fill valve and hold on to the hose. I'm going to twist it, wiggle it back and forth until it lets go. Just take your time. It's a little hard to get this one off, but twisting definitely helps. So that came off. Put the new one on. I'm just going to push it in on that same hose. Kind of twist it as I push it all the way on. I'm going to feed the plastic pieces through the back panel. I'll set it down in there. I'll add those 2 Phillips head screws back in to hold it. So if your washing machine won't fill at all, this also will do the trick. Or if it's filling really slowly, this will fix it also. Just getting those 2 screws back in, get them tight. There we go. So I'm going to use the pliers to grab the spring clamp on the white hose, and I'm going to push it a little bit more to my left so it's really on there tight to hold that hose in position. Now I can put the electrical connectors back on, the power connectors, and I'll close this front panel. I'm going to push it down and slide it to my left to lock it in, and then I'll push it back against the back panel. And then I can add those screws back in. Just going to pull out these filters on the old one just for fun to see how clogged they were. A lot of sediment in there, and that just makes it fill slower. So if you're having a slow filling fill valve, sometimes you can just pull these things out and clean them, put them back in, and then your machine will fill faster. So just getting that panel back in position against the plastic and back panel together, and then we're going to add those screws back in, the 1/4 inch screws. Get those all tight. There's another one. And once we get these all back in, the next thing to do would be just to turn, once we get the hoses back on, get the hoses tight and just turn the water back on and give it a test to make sure it isn't dribbling water anymore. The only other thing that could cause a fill valve to dribble water in like that would be if there was something wrong with the controller where it was sending a little bit of voltage into the fill valve, keeping it slightly open. That's really rare. More often, it's just a worn out fill valve that mechanically is not closing all the way anymore. Before I put these hoses back on, I like to spin the nut on them back and forth a few times to kind of break loose its corrosion. And then when I put it on, it spins on a lot easier. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to get these back on. So I'll get it on hand tight, and then I'll use the pliers to get it just a little tighter. Got to be careful when you put these on. You got to make sure that they go on really easily initially. If they're going on difficult right off the bat, that means it's cross-threaded, and it could damage the plastic threads. So make sure it goes on really easy for about the first 5 turns, and then you can use your pliers to go a little bit tighter. If you go too tight with the pliers, it can strip and break the plastic threads. So just a little bit tighter. There we go. And then we're going to turn the water back on and just look back there and make sure we don't see any leak at all. So that did the trick. That got rid of the dribble, and the machine's working good again. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope this helps you to fix your GE washer. Should be a pretty easy procedure. Might take you about 30 minutes, and you'll be back with a strong working machine again. So thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe when you get a chance.